when children come for like First Communion preparation or confirmation, and a lot of times they'll come in with their parents, and then I'll ask them if they have any questions, and the children always have different, interesting, you never know what they're going to ask. One child one time said, usually it's, will my cat be in heaven, will my dog be in heaven? But one time one girl said, can you explain the Trinity to me? And I thought, oh my gosh, second grader, third grader. But back to the cats and dogs. Yes and no. Do dogs and cats go to heaven? Yes, they do in one way. I'll get back to that. But a dog or a cat doesn't have a human soul. And it's only the human soul, who we are, like St. Paul says in the second reading, you are not in the flesh, and contrary, you are in the spirit. We are spiritual beings who have a body that's intricately connected with us. It's not just like this body, this patched onto a soul. No, we're human beings. Human beings means we have a physical nature. But we also, our soul, our substance of who we are is spiritual. It's not flesh, it's spiritual. And that's what gives life to our body, is the spirit of our soul. And when it's united with God through baptism and surrender to God, the soul can do many things through the body. Cats and dogs don't have a human soul. And their soul is not meant to, their spirit is not meant to live forever. But are they in heaven? Another way you can say, yes, they are. So you can tell your kids this. They say, yes, they are. This is a big word. Are cats and dogs and horses, I like horses, live on with us in heaven through what's called intentionality. In other words, my intent is in heaven we will have all the experiences that gave us joy on this earth will be with us in heaven. And they'll be more joyful than they even were on this earth. And so all our experiences with our cats, our dogs, our horses, our pigs, I know Brian Herding from this parish, he had a pet pig. All those can be in heaven with us through intentionality, and they'll be with us in a more powerful way than they even are here on earth. So do they live with us? Do they go to heaven? Yes, but it's through us they go to heaven. If they were just left on their own, no. But through us, they live on in heaven in a whole powerful way. So that's cats and dogs, and horses and pigs, and sheep, and whoever, snakes, even turtles, tarantulas. But for us then, we are spiritual beings. We have flesh and blood, and that's part of who we are. It's part of human nature. It's not just like we have two things, a spiritual soul and we have this body. No, and they're stuck together. No, they're intimately united. And so death, as we know it, is sort of tragic. It is tragic because we have this sense within us that we know we're going to live forever. And so anytime someone dies, it's a shock, no matter how old a person is. When my grandmother passed away at 97, my mother said, I knew she was going to die, but when she died, I never expected it. Because we have that sense of living forever, because we are living forever. But this body, which has been affected by original sin coming into the world, is corrupted. And so the body will go away and be replaced by a resurrected body, which is a whole new, in a sense, it's our body not only restored, but renewed in a whole new way, that it'll be connected with our soul again, united with our soul, but in a whole new way. In that our body, the only thing we know about the resurrection and the resurrection of the body is from Jesus. after his resurrection. It said he came to the disciples in the upper room, even though the doors were locked, and stood in their midst. So we know the resurrected body has what we call impassibility. You can go through doors and things and you don't have to open them or anything like that. And we will have the ability as far as travel, let's say. We will be like the angels in that way. Whatever we will, and in heaven we'll only will the good, is what happens. So let's say if tonight we want to have supper in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In a resurrected body, we just have to will it and we're there. There's no time lag. In fact, we can say, okay, I'm going to have supper at 6, I'll be back at 7:30. And it can happen. So that's what I mean by the resurrected body. And so when Jesus says what he wants us to do on this earth is to become more and more aware of that, of our spiritual that we are spiritual beings. Yes, we have the burden of living in this body. And as we get older and as we klutz around a lot, it gets a little more sore. But the soul doesn't age. And our soul can bring us great life, even on this earth. And the more we surrender ourselves to the person of Jesus and the power of the Holy Spirit, the more lightness of spirit we will feel inside ourselves, no matter what our age is. And so we invite Jesus into our life to walk with us, to be beside us. And that's where in the gospel today, Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." I think we pretty much know what a yoke is for oxen and things like that, horses. Most yokes have 2 harnesses. Occasionally you have one that has 1, but they're designed for 2 oxen to grind the grain. And so you have the oxen moving around on these wooden yokes, but you have 2 of them. So they support each other as they're going around grinding. That's what Jesus means when he says, "Take my yoke." In other words, he's in this yoke, and he's got a spot for you and me. In other words, he says, get under the yoke with me, and you won't have that burden. You won't even feel the burden of it. That's what he's saying. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest." A yoke is meant to work, but he says, you put on my yoke, you will find rest for yourselves. "For my yoke is easy and my burden light." And so that's what we want to do. We are spiritual beings we are a human being with a human nature, but we are destined to live forever. And this current body we have is destined to go away to make room for the resurrected body, which will live on with our soul, united intimately with our soul forever.